Donald Trump just fired. That's the clip that I'm going to play to you, for you right now from CNN. Donald Trump just fired the remaining leadership of the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, the EAC, created under the 2002 Help America Vote Act to support state and local election administration. The two Democratic commissioners, Thomas Hicks and Benjamin Hovland, were summarily fired via email, while the remaining Republican commissioner, Christy McCormick, was allowed to resign. But anyway, the fourth seat was already vacant after Republican Donald Palmer left earlier this year. But the thing is that Donald Trump just fired these people out of the blue. Why? Why is Trump doing this? What is he trying to accomplish? Well, because the EAC, this commission, requires quorum, at least like 3 commissioners to have quorum to take any official action. The agency is now completely paralyzed. This election commission is completely paralyzed. It cannot issue any new voting system standards, update official guidelines, or modify federal voter registration forms just months before the 2026 midterm elections. And this sounds, if it sounds illegal to you, well, it's because it was, or at least it would have been illegal. But the Supreme Court just changed that a week ago. This move allowing Trump to fire agencies, agency directors, was made legal by the Supreme Court recently. This ruling called Trump v. Slaughter, which overturned decades of precedent by significantly expanding the president's authority to fire leaders. And this is what they are trying to do right now. This is what the Trump administration is trying to do by firing these people from this election commission, which was bipartisan. Publicly, the White House has stated that these removals are part of a, kind of like a broader push to secure elections, because they're trying to secure elections, right? They're trying to push the SAVE Act. There's so much fraud going on. They need to save the country from all these undocumented migrants who are trying to vote because Democrats allow them to vote, right? But anyway, a White House official noted that the administration reserves the right to remove officials who may not be totally aligned with the important tasks of securing American elections and ensuring that every legal vote is counted. However, election law experts, voting rights advocates, and opposition lawmakers point to a more specific, multi-layered strategy behind this purge at this, election commission, bipartisan election commission. So the administration has heavily pressured now the EAC, or at least it had been pressuring the EAC, to modify federal mail-in voter registration forms to require documentary proof of citizenship. So now Trump fired these people. And after congressional efforts to pass this type of requirement in Congress, via the SAVE Act, which hasn't passed, Trump hasn't been able to get that accomplished. And by clearing out the current commissioners, the administration may try to directly command the staff or maybe even install loyalists, Trump's lackeys, who will alter the federal forms for mail-in voting. The thing is that specifically targeting vote by mail requirements and the standards used to certify electronic voting machines, this may be the actual end goal that Trump is trying to tackle here. So it's all about consolidating. If you think of it, it's pretty much what Project 2025 was trying to do. It's what Stephen Miller and all these people have been trying to do, which is to consolidate executive power over elections. Historically, election administration in the U.S. has been heavily decentralized and insulated from direct White House control. It used to be like that for decades. These would run primarily by the states and guided by a split bipartisan federal commission. That's how it was working, but now Trump seems to have different plans. And as I'm saying, this is how it should be, because the Constitution authorizes the states, not the executive, not the president, to run their own elections under their own set of rules and laws. The main question that a lot of people are asking after this, this firing of these people is what's going to happen next right now? Because legally, replacing the commissioners is not like an overnight process. It's not like Trump is going to be able to appoint people like tomorrow. to this bipartisan commission, which by law is supposed to be bipartisan. It has to remain bipartisan. It's 4 people. Right now, it's completely paralyzed. Trump fired the 3 people that we had remaining there. There was a vacancy, but right now it's completely paralyzed. There's no people. So by law, the seats must be filled via presidential nomination and Senate confirmation. And no more than 2 commissioners can belong to the Republican Party. 2 of them have to be Democrats, too. So election law experts expect immediate legal challenges right now, questioning whether the Supreme Court's recent ruling allowing Donald Trump to fire, agency directors allows the president to unilaterally dismantle an agency explicitly designed by Congress to maintain strict bipartisan balance. And let me repeat that because this is a big deal, right now. Election law experts expect immediate legal challenges, and probably we'll hear about that maybe tomorrow. Maybe some lawsuits will be filed to try to stop this, to question whether the Supreme Court recent ruling truly allows Donald Trump to unilaterally dismantle an agency explicitly designed by Congress to maintain strict bipartisan balance. I wonder what's going to happen there. Honestly, if this were to make it all the way back to the Supreme Court, I'm pretty sure when it comes to this particular issue, the Supreme Court probably will side with Donald Trump. But I don't know. We can't lose hope because we've seen so many adverse and devastating rulings against Donald Trump in just this last week, the past week, when it came to birthright citizenship and a few others that completely, surprised the country in the sense that a lot of people thought the Supreme Court would side with him probably in the vast majority of those cases. But they didn't do so when it came to his Liberation Day tariffs, which happened to be 100% unconstitutional, illegal and unconstitutional. Now they didn't do so when it came to a birthright citizenship. They didn't do so when it came to firing Lisa Cook, from the Fed, one of the, the governors that he's been trying to find after kind of getting rid of Jerome Powell, even though he didn't get rid of him 100%. But at least he got him out of the, leadership position. He was leading the Fed. So many other rulings have gone against Donald Trump, which have surprised the country, like when it came to due process. Remember, we have a supremacy clause, so you can't use any federal law to trump the Constitution, to go against the Constitution, because the supremacy clause tells you that the Constitution is always going to prevail. So due process is constitutional, whether people like it or not, whether Trump supporters like it or not. It is what it is, and the Supreme Court also ruled against Donald Trump when it came to that. So I don't know. There's a chance that the Supreme Court may say, well, you can fire agency directors and, leaders, personnel, fine. But in this particular case, this independence may be warranted just because this is an agency or a commission created by Congress to actually maintain bipartisan, honesty when it comes to elections, integrity. People need to trust elections, and they're not just going to trust one person just because Trump wants to say that he is the election saving messiah, the election system and voting system and process messiah. This has to be conducted in a bipartisan way if you want the country to be able to trust our election system. So what may happen if this goes to court, and it very likely is going to go to court, and it makes it all the way to the Supreme Court? Who knows? I believe there's a 70% chance, maybe 80% chance they're going to side with Trump, being consistent to this, ruling that they just they came up with. When it was last week too. Yeah, when they allowed Donald Trump to just get rid of agency directors and fire people at will, pretty much in most cases. But it's not like a complete 100% blanket power that he can use. So it would be interesting. So we'll see how they're going to end up deciding when it comes to this. So the courts may end up issuing a stay, effectively pausing this whole thing, or maybe not. We'll see. But obviously, this is not good for the country. Destroying whatever little bipartisan agencies or committees we have is not helping us at all, especially when we see, Donald Trump and this administration and how they are conducting, business, which even the courts are raising, right now a red flag saying, what these people are doing at the DOJ level, ICE, these people are fooling the courts. They're plainly, blatantly lying to the courts. And they're doing this knowingly. So it's just voluntarily. It's not like an honest mistake that they forgot something, that they missed something. These people are misleading purposely and voluntarily the courts. So this is not the only thing that Donald Trump has done to try to manipulate elections. This is the latest one. And actually, let me play that clip from Abby, and we'll be back because there's a list of things that I want to share that just show how deep and extreme to what extreme measures and lengths Donald Trump is willing to go with his administration and his lackeys to try to manipulate and steal the elections while all the while they are blaming Democrats for doing precisely that, supposedly stealing elections. But let's listen to Abby Phillip from CNN. She was actually addressing this whole thing about Trump firing these people from this bipartisan election commission and what this means. And actually, they were going to discuss it more in depth and during her show today. But let's listen to the short clip that I have for you.
Some breaking news tonight. President Trump has fired the leadership of the Election Assistance Commission. This is a commission that's responsible for providing support for election security to the states. It is a bipartisan commission, and Trump has now apparently gutted it completely. This is coming at a time when the president has been very transparent. He wants to change the voting rules. In fact, just this week, the New York Times reported that the administration is threatening to withhold anti-terrorism funding from states that refuse to make changes to their voting rules. But this commission is also responsible for certifying election machines, which has been a key target of President Trump's anger, especially over the 2020 election. The Brennan Center tonight responded to this by saying that the commission by law is required to have 4 members, half of which, 2, are from the opposite party. So it's bipartisan by law. Now, it's unclear if President Trump plans to name new members to the commission or simply leave this commission without leadership altogether. But there is a law in place that requires that it remains bipartisan. One of the other reasons that this could be happening is, remember, not too long ago, the Supreme Court just said that the president has pretty broad leeway to fire members of independent commissions. That essentially paved the way for this to happen tonight. We're going to discuss this and the implications for the upcoming midterm elections, which are now just a few months away. And President Trump continues to push for major election changes while we are in the middle of an election cycle. We'll see you at 10 p.m.
Listen to this. Donald Trump has threatened and said that he will not send emergency funds to states that don't change their policies around ICE support, their local authorities and police supporting ICE or not, or being a sanctuary city or not. And if they don't comply with Trump's demands, he's not going to send them. He's not going to release federal emergency funds that the states qualify for and that they are entitled to because they pay precisely into the federal government funds. They are actually helping. When it comes to California, California makes the biggest contributions to comparing it to Texas or Florida or even any other state. And Donald Trump still to this day, I believe that he hasn't released funds for California, or as far as I'm concerned, he hasn't. It's been excuses and just playing politics here, letting people suffer just because it's a blue state, just because it's convenient politically, and he's allowing Americans to suffer. That doesn't sound very America first to me. So he said he will not send emergency funds to states that don't change policies around ICE or elections to comply with whatever he wants. Not Congress, not the law, not the Constitution. They have to comply with whatever Donald Trump wants. And I don't know what the hell is going on right now in this country, where we're at a point where listening to just this one convicted felon who happened to just be now 100% officially confirmed, even by the Supreme Court, held liable, responsible for sexual abuse, defamation, and aggression, who happens to be a fraudster, who happens to be also a twice impeached politician, twice declared an insurrectionist by 2 courts in Colorado. How is he going to be above the Constitution? How are people going to listen to this guy and think that whatever he wants and whatever he says is somehow supposed to be, I don't know, carry more weight than the Constitution and even federal law and Congress? And then we have Congress, Republicans with absolutely no spine, total, absolute cowards, just allowing him to get away with whatever he wants. If Biden had done just 5% of whatever Donald Trump has done since he returned to power, the second time around, Republicans would be going crazy and creating all types of, special commissions and launching investigations and launching impeachment, investigations, or maybe even trying to impeach Biden altogether. So I don't know. I don't know when this is going to change or stop. Who knows? But anyway, not only he has threatened to not release funds to states that don't comply with his policies and his demands, he sent the FBI to seize, proof of a non-existent election fraud. He went into Georgia. He went into one of their voting, buildings, offices, whatever, and they seized information, computers, documents, whatever. Maybe trying to promote a new narrative. Remember, that was the occasion when we saw even Tulsi Gabbard there, and Tulsi Gabbard. And they were asking Donald Trump, what is Tulsi Gabbard doing here? She's the director of national intelligence. What is she doing with the FBI in Georgia, interfering in this, state affair, this state issue, which is elections? They are responsible for that, so that was very, fishy and strange. But anyway, that's what they did. He sent the FBI to Georgia to seize data, maybe trying to promote a new narrative of some magical new evidence that they just found 6 years later, that Republicans, his own party, his own Republicans, like, Governor Kemp and State Secretary Brad Raffensperger, didn't find in 2020, to maybe find the votes that Republican-led recounts didn't find in 2020 when they told them, Donald Trump, you lost. Remember the call? Remember that call when Donald Trump was asking Brad Raffensperger, hey, I just need you to find me 11,780 votes. And Brad Raffensperger and some other people there, I believe including Governor Kemp, told them, bro, we did it. We already, we did all the research. We ran all protocols. We already did all the recounts and recounts. There's no magical 11,780 votes that we're going to find. And Donald Trump kept insisting, the people are going to be, so frustrated. They're going to be mad. They're expecting you guys to do something because I know we won the election. Everybody knows we won. How the fuck would you know? How the fuck would you know, Donald Trump? You were in the White House. That your big fat ass was sitting in the White House, and your own party, Republicans, that didn't want Joe Biden to win, were counting the votes. They found no fraud. There was no fraud that they could, pinpoint. And even now, Donald Trump is always alleging fraud, and Greg Abbott in Texas, and all these people are always alleging, and crying, there's fraud, there's massive fraud. We need the SAVE Act, and we need all these new laws around IDs, new IDs, and a bunch of bullshit. And the question is, how many people have they accused right now? How many people are on trial since Donald Trump came back to office because of fraud? Where is the widespread election fraud responsible, people, the criminals? Where are they? Who are they? If you had so much proof, and now Donald Trump has control of everything. He has the executive, he has Congress, he has the Supreme Court. They control 100% everything, the House, the Senate. And you control every single agency, the DOJ, DHS, CISA, the FBI. You can investigate everything and anything you want. No cases. No cases. Actually, this administration, DOJ, is losing around 90% of the cases that is taking to court. That is taken to court, or when it's taken to court. 90%. You guys, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but the DOJ used to have a winning record of around 99%. This is why there was this whole, branding around, the DOJ. They had this whole branding. People knew they had an image. They had a reputation. If you were indicted by the federal government before the Trump era, there was a 99 chance that you were going to be convicted because they didn't take cases they knew they were going to lose. They only took cases, which was good and bad because, they were working in a very, let's say, very legal, constitutional way, making sure that the cases were grounded, that they had merit. So they were not willing to take on losing cases or frivolous cases. But the thing is that, for instance, recently, I was listening to Glenn Kirshner on Brian Tyler Cohen's show, and Glenn Kirshner was saying that this is one of the things about the Department of Justice. It was good because they made sure to take on winning cases. They made sure to be well documented. They had proof, this is going to move forward and we're going to win. But now that also means, on the flip side, it means that sometimes the DOJ would come across cases that were important for the people. These were cases that had merit, but maybe they felt they didn't have enough proof or grounds to win in court, so they wouldn't take them. So on one hand, on the flip side, yes, on the positive side, silver lining, they made sure to take on cases they could win. But on the flip side, and the negative was the downside, that sometimes fair causes that still, deserved a chance, a day in court, never saw a day in court because they were not willing to humiliate themselves and fail in court. But since Donald Trump, especially now, Donald Trump 2.0 is back in office, now that he has all these lackeys and all these partisan hacks at all levels of his administration, including the DOJ, Donald Trump now has, I believe, I heard yesterday, I believe it was Mark Elias, also with Brian Tyler Cohen on a different episode, which, I watch a lot because I help Brian Tyler Cohen running, one of his channels. Let me see if I have it here by chance. Well, I don't have it here. Anyway, I've been running Brian Tyler Cohen's Spanish channel, translating his English content to Spanish. So obviously I'm aware of all of these cases and all the episodes that he is running that we translate for the Spanish channel. But even Mark Elias was saying Donald Trump now has at least four of his personal lawyers in different, very prominent, important positions in the government. One of them leading the DOJ that he is trying to get now confirmed in the Senate as the official attorney general. But right now, I don't know if you saw this or not, but there's a news that just broke, 2 or 3 days ago, that I believe it was 1,200 prosecutors. I believe it was 1,200 prosecutors just sent a letter to Congress saying, please do not confirm Todd Blanche. Please do not confirm Todd Blanche. And, I kind of understand why. It's not good. You want independence. I know, it's your chance. You need people that you can trust, but you want to trust people that do the right thing. You don't want to have people that you trust because they are your buddies. They're just going to block whatever it may hurt you just because they're your friends. He wants people like, Fox News presenter, host, Pete Hegseth, leading the Department of Defense, which now they call the Department of War because, they're so alpha male and so aggressive, and we're not here to defend ourselves, we're here to attack. It's such bullshit, man. But anyway, so he has this completely, absolutely ignorant and incompetent Pete Hegseth, who happened to, be accused apparently of sexual abuse, and then he had to settle outside of court, and he made this woman sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, so now she can't talk to the press. But there was something going on. This is so much, for being so Christian and bringing his pastor to preach at the Pentagon like last month. The pastor who believes that women shouldn't be able to vote. He says that he doesn't want women to vote. That he believes that there should be a household vote. That's Pete Hegseth's, pastor saying that bullshit, which of course is not going to resonate with at least 98% of women. But that's who they are. They want to go back to this theocracy, time. They want to go back to this Old Testament mindset. They want to turn the USA into Afghanistan, something like that. They want to have women completely submissive at home, cooking, mopping the floors, giving birth to 20 children, maybe dying when they get an ectopic pregnancy, and then nobody wants to help them because of their own Republican, draconian 1800s based laws, blocking health care and preventing women from getting, the care that they need. And this is not good for the country, what we're seeing when it comes to that. So anyway, Donald Trump is trying to somehow find, by going into the states and controlling all these things, they're trying to somehow support against this narrative of the big lie, so that they can have an excuse to push the SAVE Act, so they can have an excuse to send ICE to the voting, locations all over the country. Force, voter ID registration laws, or even additional, who knows, like a passport, maybe even your certificate that matches this ID, which is going to be a total shit show, because 90 million of, women change their last name. Most of them change their last name when they marry, and now their IDs, of course, is not going to match the birth certificate. So now they have to go and somehow maybe get a new birth certificate, or maybe get a passport, which is going to be $150 at least, if not more. And, half the country doesn't even pay attention. Maybe 70% of the country doesn't even pay attention to the news or to laws that are coming out, or let alone election stuff. So they're going to learn probably at the last minute that they can't vote now because their registration is not valid. And, all these things. I'm telling you, there's so much going on. And then when it comes to other initiatives, Trump has been issuing executive orders to do even more. He recently issued an executive order trying to prevent the USPS from sending, or banning, the USPS from sending mail-in voting ballots to states that, again, don't comply with dear leaders' election rules and changes and demands. Trump issued an executive order trying to prevent the USPS from sending mail-in ballots to states that refuse to comply with Donald Trump's demands for changing election rules. Fortunately, that was stopped recently by the courts, at least for now. We'll see where that goes and how fast it moves through the system, all the way up probably to the Supreme Court. Aside from that, moreover, Donald Trump is demanding more states redraw to redraw their maps, their district, maps, mid-cycle. When this used to happen only after the census. Every 10 years, states would obviously take into account demographic changes and see, okay, we have population increases, decreases. Okay, so we need to make some adjustments here, and let's 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 bake in a little bit of advantage, for our party. Of course, that would happen too, but it would be every 10 years. There was no mid-cycle redistricting, but Donald Trump was so desperate right now, knowing that things are not looking very pretty ahead of the midterms, that he ordered Greg Abbott to just redraw these maps mid-cycle. And Greg Abbott was, yes, sir, dear leader, whatever you say, whatever you want, we're going to do that. But he knows he's losing the House in November. He's losing the majority, and now maybe even he may be losing the Senate too. The Senate was not in play, but after Donald Trump refused to make the Epstein files public, after he went into Venezuela, and then he bombed the shit out of Iran last year, and now he's in the middle of this full-blown, war with Iran, of course, he knows the Senate now is in play, according to very reputable and trusted polling. So that means that if they lose the House and they lose the Senate, or just even the House, that means more investigations. That means more obstacles to get any legislation passed. That means more Epstein accountability. That means more DOJ accountability. Remember, the Epstein accountability hasn't been that much because Congress could do way more right now, and they're not doing it because Mike Johnson is not going to do shit to hold Donald Trump accountable or the DOJ accountable if that's going to affect Donald Trump and expose not only Donald Trump, but his friends, his dear, rich and billionaire friends. That's who they are trying to protect with all of this. So he knows there's going to be more Epstein accountability, more DOJ accountability, more ICE and FBI accountability, interviews, subpoenas. That's not going to be good for him, especially not now that this has become the most corrupt administration in history in this country. And I'm telling you, there's tons of skeletons right now in the closet. They know that the moment the dam breaks, it's all hell is going to break loose. Even Steve Bannon said it. Have you guys heard Steve Bannon saying that if we lose the midterms, if we lose these elections, like a lot of us, maybe a lot of you guys here, even Mike Johnson said something similar recently, but especially Steve Bannon said a lot of us and a lot of you guys here, whoever he was talking to, are going to go to jail. That's what Steve Bannon said, because they know. Why would you be so sure that you're going to go to jail unless you knew you had, broken the law? And they know that. He even was trying, Donald Trump was trying to create a centralized, the federal government, because Donald Trump doesn't know shit when it comes to technology. He can barely manage his phone. Remember when he was trying to send Pam Bondi a direct message on Truth Social, and he ended up posting the message, publicly when he was asking Pam Bondi to go after all these people, James Comey and Letitia James and Shifty Shift, Adam Schiff, and John Bolton. It was a couple of them that he mentioned during that explosion on Truth Social, telling her, people are laughing at us because, I see a lot of talking on the media. You're doing this whole media tour, a lot of talking, but no action. Nothing is happening. And then she said publicly, well, I know he's talking to me. He was talking to me. Of course, I know it. So she ended up, I don't know, just moving forward with it. And they ended up charging James Comey. They charged Letitia James. They charged all these people in pretty much every single case except Bolton's case, which, we could discuss, but it's kind of unfortunate. But he mismanaged classified information, and he pled guilty. So at least he showed some accountability for making a mistake and breaking the law, to whatever extent he did. But Donald Trump never, he was never accountable. He never showed any remorse. He never apologized for keeping, thousands of classified documents back in Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump is on audio. Literally, Donald Trump is on audio at his Bedminster property in New Jersey, his golf course in New Jersey. He's holding a meeting with some people, and he is in audio. They recorded this MF, which is, I find it, amusing and funny that he has all these people that he believes look up to him and adore him, but these people are around him just laughing at him, just considering how narcissistic, he is and how much of a fool. And as soon as he starts saying stuff, they record him. The people around them are recording him. So they recorded him saying, "Oh, these battle plans." You can hear, he was just shuffling papers around, and these are the battle plans. He was telling a lady and some other people, they were laughing. "Oh, these are the battle plans that Mark Milley, General Mark Milley gave me these battle plans. This is for Iran, and this whole thing. Look at that. This is amazing." And he said, and these documents are classified. And I could have I could have declassified them when I was president, but I did not. And now I can't. Donald Trump shuffling battle plans with people that were not cleared to have access to classified documents was saying, these are battle plans that Mark Milley gave me. This is about Iran, and these are classified documents that I could have declassified when I was president, but I did not. And now that he's not president at that point, I can't. That is on freaking audio. But somehow he got away with it because the Supreme Court decided to pull out of their asses, out of, whole cloth, presidential immunity. Nowhere in the Constitution there is any presidential immunity. No president before Donald Trump ever even asked for it or talked about it. Not even Nixon. Nixon just quit. He just quit as soon as the Congress sat down with Nixon and told him, bro, we're going to impeach you and we have the votes. He turned around and he talked to Ford, his vice president. They made an arrangement. He stepped down and Ford obviously took over, and Ford pardoned Nixon before he could be impeached and processed in Congress. But Congress had a spine back then because of we can add Mitch McConnell. we can add McConnell's Mitch McConnell. We couldn't get it done because even Republicans voted to impeach Donald Trump back in, around 2019, 2020, 2021, whatever. Within that time frame, it happened twice. One over the Ukraine called extortion, and one because of the insurrection. And 2 times the House voted to impeach him, including Republicans. But when it came to the Senate, Mitch McConnell blocked it. They didn't have a spine, even though they knew. They knew he was guilty as hell. But they just wouldn't act on it. But anyway, going back to this whole election, scheme and manipulation, now Donald Trump was trying to create this whole centralized database of voters. So he could send a voter list to the states, which was a Donald Trump federally approved, filtered, purified voter list. Now this voter list would be sent to the states, and the states had to use the plan was to have the states use this approved list the same way they send fake electors to Congress. Remember when Joe Biden was going to be confirmed in 2021? In January 20th, they sent fake elector envelopes to Mike Pence. And in that same fashion, they're trying to send this fake purified filter voter list approved only by Donald Trump's people. So the states now, I guess, just give up their constitutionally approved, authorization to run their own elections and have their own rules and regulations and laws. But no, Donald Trump wants to impose via an executive order and his own plan and will. He wants to implement this federal national database that is only approved by his team, and states have to go by that list to know who will be allowed to vote or not. Can you imagine the chaos? Completely unconstitutional, completely illegal, but that's what they're trying to do. Fortunately, the courts also have already put a stop to that. For now, we'll see what happens with that. But the thing is that I find it so ironic. I find it so ironic that they are putting so much effort into overhauling, the whole electoral system, the whole election system. They're trying to overhaul the whole thing instead of just, taking care of people. It's interesting that if you take care of the people, if you do what's right for and by the people, instead of just doing some other bullshit that they don't want, you tend to win. When you take care of the people, you tend to win. Trump won in 2024 without doing all these things that they want to do right now, without the SAVE Act and without punishing states for not submitting, to Donald Trump. Without a national master database, without any fraud prevention, Donald Trump won, and he won relatively comfortable in 2024. It wasn't a landslide by any stretch of the imagination, but he won comfortable. He won by 77 million and something votes. Kamala Harris got 75 million votes. And he won the Electoral College also relatively comfortable. There was zero fraud in 2024. The same way there was zero fraud in 2020, because there's hardly been fraud over the years. And they know that. But instead of improving the economy, instead of creating more jobs, lowering grocery prices, and avoiding wars, instead of making the Epstein files public, instead of helping with new, more affordable homes or lower rent prices, instead of stopping wars, instead of lowering water and electricity bills, instead of lowering utilities, the only thing they've done is engage in culture wars. Or, like I said, just bombing the shit out of Venezuela, out of Iran. And now we're in the middle of this full-blown war where 15 or 16 Americans have died as of today, and over 500 soldiers have been wounded. And we have spent billions of dollars. Billions, some say at least $100 billion. They say, I even saw this today, I saw it from Bernie Sanders. We have spent so much on this war already, on this Iran war, that they say we have spent enough in Iran to make universal, look at this, listen to this. We have spent enough in Iran already to make universal free college tuition available in the USA. Can you imagine having free college tuition in the USA? Because we never have the money. We're broke. No. We can't be spending money this way with waste, fraud, and abuse. No. We have to be fiscally responsible. We don't have the money, but we always have money to bomb the shit out of some other country. So free college tuition would cost at least $28 billion. And that's exactly how much they spent right now on this war so far. Go and, look it up. It's projected to be at least $200 billion. If you take that and, look at that number, that money, $200 billion, could fully fund comprehensive first dollar universal college tuition for at least 3 to 4 years across the entire United States. And they're spending this money, so proudly in a war, killing people, killing little kids and girls at a school, killing teachers. For what? Why? To make Netanyahu happy? Fuck that. Why not give free, college to everybody? Can you imagine how much we could improve and lift our country, our people, giving them fucking free college opportunities? So many people could just further develop their skills, go into a new field, get ready for changes that are coming with all this technology and globalization and AI taking over. People need to get more training and maybe shift their mindset. If we can give them free tuition, a lot of people will be way better equipped and prepared. That's the thing, we're just dropping bombs like money grows on trees here in the United States. No problem spending that money, bombing the shit out of Iran. But when it comes to using that money for good here, let's say something that some people would call, when it comes to putting America first, somehow so strange, right? So I don't know, interesting that the America First party doesn't want to put America first. Interesting. But that would require Republicans actually caring for the average American. And they don't. And this is why the only option they have to win elections right now is to manipulate the system. Cheating. And while they cheat, at the same time, they're crying fraud and they're screaming and pulling their hairs out and pointing fingers at Democrats, at the leftists, Marxists, communists, accusing them of stealing elections. I remember when they asked Donald Trump recently, if Democrats cheat and they stole the 2020 election, when Trump was in charge of all agencies, note that Trump was in charge of all the agencies, FDI, the FBI, DHS, CISA, what else? DOJ. And somehow the Democrats, having control of nothing, they were able to steal the elections. And not only they're good at stealing elections, they're good at hiding it. They're so good at hiding it that Donald Trump is, he's a mastermind spotting fraud and presenting it on social media, but never being able to uphold it in court, in a court of law. Because of course he never wants to win in a court of law. He wants to win in the court of public opinion. He's great with people. He's great with social media, and I'll give him that. Donald Trump, he is a master manipulator of the media. Granted, he's not even close to what he used to be, maybe even 6 or 7 years ago. Donald Trump has deteriorated very rapidly. I don't know if you guys are noticing this or not. I believe this whole NATO summit has put this on full display. Donald Trump was calling Vladimir Zelensky. He called him Putin. He pointed at Zelensky and said, "Do you have a question for President Putin?" Pointing at Zelensky. And when reporters, told him, "Hey, this is Zelensky, not Putin," he said, "Well, I'm referring to, if you have a question for Putin, I guess he was trying to present it as, well, Putin is kind of related to this whole discussion because this, they have a war going on. So you guys may want to ask Putin something." Yeah, that may make sense, Trump, but that was not what happened. That was not what happened, because even though you may think it makes sense to say that you were wondering if a reporter had a question for Putin, when you were pointing at Zelensky, asking if they had a question for Putin, Putin from Ukraine, Putin wasn't there. So it makes zero sense, to have a reporter formulating a question at you or at Zelensky meant for Putin to answer, because he is not there to answer it. And you, Trump, wouldn't be able to answer it. And Zelensky obviously wouldn't be able to answer it either. So it makes absolutely zero sense when he tried to justify his mental fart, his brain fart, of calling Zelensky Putin. It makes zero sense that he was referring to just an honest curiosity of if the press had any question. Maybe he was just curious to know what kind of questions they had for President Putin, who wasn't there. That makes no sense. And then on top of that, he's talking to the press and he said, "Oh yeah, they launch 111 missiles." He said that the Islamic Republic of Japan, the Islamic Republic of Japan, had fired 111 missiles. That's like 2 in a row right there. And then on top of that, he was walking at some point and they had to grab him by the arm and pull him back, in a different direction. Like, bro, you're lost. Where are you going? What are you looking to, for? You're completely disoriented. Are you fine? Are you feeling good? Do we need to, find a bed for you next to Mitch McConnell right now in the hospital? That Mitch McConnell happens to be so alive right now. Guys, I called him this morning. We just had a 20-minute conversation. He told me he's switching to the Democratic Party right now. He's going to be with the Democrats. And not only voting in Congress, but he's switching parties. He just told me that this morning. We spent 20 minutes. He sounded very, very, active. He was very alert. He was talking about Congress and history and the country And the midterms, it was a great conversation with Mitch McConnell because he is very, very alive. Don't believe the lies about Mitch McConnell being dead or brain dead. No. Yeah, I know he's been missing for 25. Well, it's 1:37 a.m. So now 26 days. He's been completely missing in action. Nobody has seen him, and everybody's talking to him. He talks to the president. He talks to John Toon. Talking to other senators. He's talking to Scott Jennings. But of course, for some reason, he just can't post a tweet. He just can't do some live streaming. He won't put out a press release himself. That's normal. That's 100% normal. Yeah. Let's give him some space. The guy is sick. Just give him a break, no problem. Yeah, I know when it comes to Joe Biden, Donald Trump even asked for an investigation into the Democrats, a criminal investigation for completely covering up Biden's deteriorating health. Biden was declining, and he was just. They knew it. They were somehow keeping it a secret. So we need a criminal investigation because the American people deserve transparency. Brought to you by the most transparent administration in history. But anyway, going back to what they asked Trump, they asked him, why do you think that if Democrats cheat and they stole the 2020 election when Trump was in charge of everything, not Democrats, why did they not cheat in 2024 when Biden was in control of everything? Biden had control of all the agencies that would have made it 1,000 times easier to steal the elections in 2024. And in 2024, things were the stakes were higher. It was even, I would argue that it was like way more, important. It was like in the Democrats' own best interest to steal also the 2024 elections, because now Trump can't, he had a completely different mindset. He was already convicted of felonies. He was already found liable for sexual abuse. So we already knew he was an insurrectionist. We already knew that he extorted Ukraine. We knew that there was Russia collusion. As much as Trump wants to say that he was completely exonerated, Mueller said under oath before Congress that no, he was not exonerated, and that there was enough proof in his report to maybe even file charges against Donald Trump. That's on YouTube. That you can find that anywhere on the internet right now. Go and search for Robert Mueller's own testimony under oath before Congress saying, I never said that Trump was exonerated. I said that we couldn't recommend charging him because he was a sitting president, and that's the tradition of the DOJ, to not charge a sitting president. But that didn't mean that he was exonerated. It just wouldn't have been fair for me to say that we had proof of his wrongdoing at that time, because there was no trial for us to obviously present the evidence and for him to be able to defend himself in a proper way. So it was not responsible to say or to recommend a charging decision at that point. And then we had Bill Barr, who actually just summarized the whole thing into one letter size, page, and said that there was nothing to be found, and he was pretty much putting it away. There's nothing to see here. He, of course, saved them. Bill Barr saved them when it came to the Mueller report. But still, we knew, and we now see Tucker Carlson, and we see Megyn Kelly, and we see all these far-right influencers trying to pretend that they don't like what Trump stands for as of today, when he told us all along. He showed us his true colors all along. Since day one, we knew, and we told you, and we warned you day and night. Kamala Harris said it. He's going to do A, B, and C, and D during the debate. And that's exactly what he did. He has done every single thing that Kamala Harris said that he was going to do. And now they're pretending, to be astonished and completely baffled by how Donald Trump changed all his promises. So what, you were actually expecting Donald Trump to fulfill a promise? when it came to lowering prices, when it came to having electricity down by 50% in 6 months? You really believe that? You believe that he was not gonna? The only thing I can give you is this: being honest and trying to be objective and not just trying to burn Trump just because I'm a progressive. He was not a 100% anti-war. He didn't start a war, but he did. He did engage in military operations during his first term, quite a few of them. But of course, he didn't have a full-scale war during his first term. So you have to give him that. So if a Republican tells me right now, some MAGA, lackey Trump supporter tells me, hey, I never believed he was going to go into war, with Venezuela, arrest Maduro and then go into Iran and say that he wanted to take over the Panama Canal and he wanted to annex, turn Canada into, State 51, and that then he wanted to go and take Greenland also probably by the force because, of course, they never wanted that, and then go into a full-blown war with Iran again, even though Tulsi Gabbard and his own intelligence agency had said 3 months before the first bombing last year, 3 months before that, Tulsi Gabbard sat down before Congress under oath, and she said Iran does not have a nuclear war, and they're not even close to having one. Yes, they are enriching uranium, but not at a level that would put them in some form of threat, level. Not at a level where it's compromising, not at a level that would allow them to be close to getting a nuclear weapon. That was roughly maybe 2.5, 3 months before Donald Trump was claiming that they were just days away from having the biggest arsenal in history to destroy the whole world, probably the universe. He ran on intelligence that was not U.S. intelligence. And a lot of people wonder about that. Who is Donald Trump getting his cues from? Who is Donald Trump getting his intelligence from? We already know from the first administration that Donald Trump wouldn't even pay attention to his morning briefings about intelligence and all of that. They said that it was like trying to talk to like a kid from elementary school, that he was just like so obsessed with Fox News and his phone and all the attention that he would not even pay attention to his own advisors. He wouldn't listen to his own military and foreign advisors or even domestic advisors when it came to intelligence and security and all of that. He just wouldn't pay attention unless the intelligence was related to one of his political enemies abroad, like Macron or whoever. If it was related to a country or especially a person that he despised, a person that had criticized Trump, then he wanted to he wanted all that smoke. He wanted to be 100% aware of what was going on. Yeah, give me the full the whole tea. Let's spill it here. I want to know. That's Donald Trump. But anyway, the question was that if they stole the 2020 election, why they didn't steal the 2024 election when it was way easier for them to steal the 2024 election? And Trump had no answer. The only thing he could, only sentences, the only words he could string together into a sentence were, it was too big to rig. Remember that? He said it was too big to rig. Yeah, right. Suddenly, Democrats had a change of heart. Suddenly, they grew a conscience. Suddenly, they had a come to Jesus moment, becoming law-abiding citizens, willing to just transfer power peacefully. Jesus, amen. We want to be law-abiding citizens. We want to be Christians. We want to go by the book now. All of a sudden, thank you for inspiring us, Jesus, so that we can allow Donald Trump to now rise to power back again, even though we had the capacity to steal, but we just didn't want to do it this time around. Does that make any sense? Honestly, let me ask you guys, do you think it makes any sense? And then not only they didn't steal it, they didn't even cry fraud. Nobody said. I can tell you that a lot of people, a lot of Democrat, voters were very, I don't know, destroyed. They were very frustrated. They were depressed. I can tell you because on my Spanish channel, I had so many people telling me, oh, they stole the election from Kamala Harris. There was so many different reports, not non-confirmed reports of like anecdotal stuff. Nothing was real. It was a lot of fake news around Republicans, MAGA people, and Donald Trump stealing the election. I don't believe that was it. I believe we just lost fair and square. I believe Biden and Kamala Harris just, even though they did a lot and they accomplished a lot, and Biden probably has been one of the most effective presidents passing in Congress bipartisan laws. The first law, gun control law in over 30 years, they reauthorized the Act Against Violence, Violence Against Women Act, I should say, the infrastructure law, the Save, what's it called? The Rescue America, Save America, Rescue America, whatever act to, he had so many different things that were really good and positive. But when it came to people feeling it in their pockets, when it came to people feeling relief, when it came to inflation, which is what most people care about anyway. Yes, people want you to fix stuff, around the house. It would be great if you have somebody around the house that can take care of, the walls and, the fence and light bulbs and fixtures and the kitchen cabinets. Everything can be beautiful, but if you can't eat and if you can't, keep the lights on, electricity on, and if you can't keep the water running, and if you can't pay your car, who cares if the car is very clean and, and smells well and everything is, clean and tidy? That's what happened. Biden and Kamala Harris, they did accomplish a lot. Biden didn't start any new war. Oh, they told us if Biden won, we were going to be, going into war like every single month. Biden didn't start any new war. Yes, we had the Ukraine war, but that wasn't Biden's war. That was Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine. So there was a lot of good, but, the people just didn't feel the relief. And after the pandemic, there was this global phenomenon too, that almost every single country, with the exception of Mexico and some others, it was very few, almost every single country, regardless of, party, regardless of, political affiliation, whoever was in power after the pandemic was booted out. So most countries, apparently people were just frustrated because of the whole pandemic and all these measures that were taken. The people just couldn't, a lot of people lost their jobs, so they just couldn't go out. They couldn't go to church. They just couldn't see their family members. A lot of people lost family members. In the United States alone, over a million people died because of COVID. So anyway, the people were just mad, and they were exploding, and somehow they took it out on politicians all over the world. That was a phenomenon. It's been well documented. So I don't think it had that much to do necessarily 100% with Biden, but I do believe that they could have done better with the border. They definitely could have done better with the border. They could have done better with messaging and narrative. They are awful. Democrats are awful at controlling the narrative, and they allow Donald Trump to control the narrative. Republicans are way better at repeating the same shit over and over and over, and they have these groups. It's been said by this, Elon Musk's ex, I don't know, girlfriend, or the mother of one of his childs. What's her name? Something Sinclair. This girl, she has been saying that they have WhatsApp groups and they have Signal groups. And they have all these influencers, and they have even Trump's sons in these groups. And all these influencers get feedback directly from the Trump family, what to do, what to say, what's the messaging today, what are the bullet points, the talking points for today. And now you have a fucking army of right-wing propaganda that is being repeated nonstop the whole day. Democrats don't have that. I'm a progressive, and I am getting my cues from my own effort. I am, searching the different media for different news from both sides to see what's being said and when and what's relevant and what I care about and what I think is hurting us the most. And then I come up with my own, my own messaging. Nobody's reaching out to me from the Democratic Party saying, hey, Daniel, we have put together this whole package of, important legislation and important discussions that we need to have ahead of the elections so that we can have one unified messaging. That doesn't happen. I think it may be good in a sense. On the other hand, it may be quite bad too. Like, you don't necessarily want to have somebody telling you what to say. I cherish and I value my own independent, view when it comes to all of this, because I can criticize my own party. And I have criticized my own party. I did criticize when they didn't hold a primary once Biden determined to not run. I even criticized Biden when he decided to run again, and he did, because especially when I saw that first debate, I was like, oh Lord. But even before the debate, I was like, I believe that he's too old. I think Biden shouldn't be the candidate. Neither Trump. But anyway, I criticized my own party. But once he decided he was going to run, I'm like, well, there's the power of re-election is real. The stats are there. Anyone who gets elected president, there's a high chance he's going to be re-elected just because he's the one with the exposure. Even George W. Bush, with his whole shit show when it came to this massive, destruction weapons in Iraq, that was a total disaster. Even George W. Bush, he won re-election. So I'm thinking, well, Biden is, he's slow now. He's definitely slow. He's not looking agile by any stretch of the imagination. But he decided to run, and he has a lot of wins. He's never been accused of a crime. He's not a felon. Donald Trump is a felon. He's found liable for sexual abuse. He's twice impeached. He has been twice declared an insurrectionist. This guy, he's a fraudster. He cheated his own charity. He stole money from his own charity, according to the courts, so that he can use it for his own personal gain, for his own business, and for his own political campaign, stealing money from kids, kids with cancer, or even from veterans. So I was like, in a way to myself, I was like, you know what? Biden may be old, but he ain't no felon. He ain't no insurrectionist. He ain't no racist enabling, kind of president like we see Trump enabling white supremacists and all these people. So I was sure that Biden, he had a shot, but then the first debate came around, and oh boy, what a disaster. What a disaster. I was like, he's got to go. After I immediately started podcasting the next minute after the debate, I'm like, Houston, we have a problem. We need to get Biden out, yes or yes. And fortunately, the party, they reacted and they pushed him out to a certain degree, even though Biden said it himself, show me proof that I can't win. And if you show me real data, like real research, I don't know, polling, I'll just quit myself. And he did. They came up with some research, and obviously a lot of pressure from the whole party and even the country. He was just doing badly all of a sudden, very badly. And he quit. But then the party decided to just anoint, the anointed Kamala Harris. They decided to, point at her with Biden's own finger. Yeah, you're the anointed one, and we're not going to hold a primary. The funds that we have, they had over $200 million sitting in an account. And if they wanted to do a primary, all of a sudden that money would have been frozen until they, resolved the whole election thing, the whole primary thing. But I think it was doable. They just didn't want to do it. So, you pair the pandemic whole, I don't know, just frustration that people were, I don't know, just feeling. And then you pair that with inflation that was kept high, it remained high. And you pair it with the fact that house prices didn't go down, and groceries didn't go down, and gas was high. Even though many of these things were beyond Joe Biden's hands, I think they definitely could have done better. So they waited too late. Then Kamala Harris during the campaign was saying, we're going to tackle prices, and we're going to come up with these federal laws, to combat price gouging, and we're going to come up with this program to help you buy your first home, and all these things. But it was too little, too late. And I wish that Republicans could do the same thing. I wish that they could look at Trump and say, you know what? Let's be honest. We trusted this guy. He failed us. But yeah, we knew who he was. Yeah, we knew that there was a high chance that he was going to do all these things. Megyn Kelly said recently on her own show, she said, well, we knew there was probably going to be some corruption, but not to this level. Megyn Kelly said, we knew there was going to be some corruption when it came to Trump's business dealing and his family, but not at this level. Oh, so you were fine with a little corruption, just not a lot? That was the best that you can do? Yeah, I'm going to support this guy. Megyn Kelly, after Donald Trump mocked her and insulted her and humiliated when she was one of the moderators for one of the debates, remember? I believe it was with Hillary Clinton. I don't think it was with Biden. I think it was with Hillary Clinton that he said, oh, she's always she's bleeding out of, it's like she's bleeding out of all of her holes or something. Saying that she was menstruating, on her period or something like that. It was something very vulgar that he implied. So he was very disrespectful towards her. And then she was, during this 2024 campaign, she showed up at one of the Trump's rallies. In Spanish, rallies are mítines. So she showed up at one of Trump's rallies and hugged them, and she told the world to vote for Donald Trump. Well, not the world, the United States. She told the country, yeah, let's vote for this guy. And now she's pretending like she never saw it coming. Really, Megyn Kelly, really. So does it make any sense that Republicans would do, put all this effort into changing the whole election system instead of just delivering for the people? It doesn't make any sense. Of course not. They're never going to put the people first. They're never going to put America first. But here we are with a convicted felon in chief, rigging the midterms hardcore as much as he can, and at the same time rigging the 2028 elections as much as he can by laying the groundwork right now, the foundation for whatever's going to happen in 2028. There's rumors right now, quite a strong rumors right now, saying that they want to come up with this whole investigation about fraud that they're doing. Apparently, they're going to come up with this claim that China meddled somehow in the 2020 election. And because of that, they're going to use that as an excuse to declare a national emergency that would grant Donald Trump special powers and prerogatives that he don't have right now. Is that going to happen? I don't know, but it sounds plausible that he would do something like that because Donald Trump has tried everything that you can think of right now when it comes to manipulating every single little thing that he wants to. He even got, colluded. There's collusion, Russia with FIFA. He just colluded with FIFA to manipulate FIFA into unsuspending one of the USA's top player. Actually, I made a whole episode on my Spanish podcast saying that nobody can tell me that Donald Trump didn't conspire with the FIFA president, Infantino, to have this guy suspended and then have Donald Trump be the savior, the messiah saving the U.S. team. And unfortunately, the U.S. team, based on karma, they lost, and they lost big. It was a humiliating loss, and a lot of people are questioning if we would have gotten a completely different result had Donald Trump not gotten involved. But he got involved, and that might have changed the team's morale. Maybe the team would have, came out with a sense of urgency. We need to fight. They took our best player unfairly. They gave him a red card when it wasn't, intentional. So now probably maybe they would have come out, with this, I don't know, feeling that they needed to go for revenge, that they deserved to get revenge. But a lot of people are saying that they were not motivated because of Donald Trump's interference. So who knows? So I don't know. Like I said, here we are with a convicted felon rigging the midterms, rigging the 2028 elections, and manipulating every single agency in the process, every single committee, every system overall, because he's afraid of free and fair elections. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. My name is Daniel Aranzamendi. This is the Aranzamendi podcast. I'll be here tomorrow with a new episode because I'm going to be now a little bit more consistent doing episodes here on my English channel. Please, if you like the show, subscribe, comment. Let me see. I had a poll. Let me talk about this before I leave. So we have Mitch McConnell, obviously missing in action, right? Everybody's saying that he's dead, but then the Republicans are saying that he's not dead, that he's actually very alive, and that he's talking supposedly to some of the Republican leaders, in Congress, like John Thune and some other people, and including Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings said on CNN that he talked to him yesterday morning, and they had a 20-minute call, and he was just sounding great and very alert and happy that he was making progress when it came to his condition. There's a lot of things that don't make sense there. But if you guys are not aware of what's going on when it comes to that, let me tell you this. If, according to Kentucky's law, where Mitch McConnell is from, according to Kentucky, if Mitch McConnell is brain dead, as sources are supposedly, stating, that means that according to Kentucky's law, he has to be declared legally dead. In Kentucky, if you are certified, you have to be certified by 2 doctors. If you're certified brain dead, officially, that means that legally now you are considered dead. Even if they keep you connected to a machine, to a ventilator, artificially alive, if your brain is dead, legally in Kentucky, you are dead. If you are legally dead in Kentucky, that means that if they declare Mitch McConnell dead, brain dead, officially, legally dead, then that means that if they do it before August 3rd, on or before August 3rd, that means that they have to hold a special election. And the special elections means that any Democrat or any independent or Republican can run now to replace Mitch McConnell. So Republicans wouldn't have control. But if they hold back and keep Mitch McConnell silently away, hidden from the public eye, and they claim that he is alive, like Weekend at Bernie's, like Bernie's in that movie of Weekend at Bernie's, that he's alive, and they wait past the 3rd, and now they finally disconnect them after the 3rd, and all of a sudden they say, oh, you know what? He was making so much progress, but suddenly he died. So if they say he died after the 3rd, they don't have to hold special elections. And now the law states that the governor, in this case, which is Andy Bashar, the governor is required to name a substitute, a temporary substitute, and it has to be from the same political party that Mitch McConnell belongs to. So it has to be a Republican substitute if Mitch McConnell is declared dead or brain dead, which would be the equivalent of legally dead in Kentucky after August 3rd. So let's keep an eye on this. I don't know what's going on, guys. I believe this would be too great of a conspiracy. This would be like high level fucking crazy. We are nuts and we are immoral and we are monsters. Crazy shit kind of thing. If you have Mitch McConnell dead in a hospital, brain dead, legally dead, and you are somehow this, I don't know, it's kind of like, to me, that would be violating a sacred thing. This is his body. If you believe if you're a Christian and you believe this is his body that God gave him, and if you believe that he should be buried the right way and treat this whole process with integrity and respect, you wouldn't keep a person fucking connected to a machine for almost a month or more than a month so that you can wait until August 3rd and avoid a special election. I'm telling you, that would be fucking nasty and crazy. But are Republicans beyond something like that? I don't know. Are Republicans capable of doing something like that, especially Trump and Stephen Miller and some of these cronies and lackeys? Absolutely, they are capable of pulling up some weird, crazy shit like that. I don't know. I don't know if they will go that far, but I know they're capable of doing it. I'm just shocked that that would be a completely new level of craziness if we get to that point. So keep an eye on what's going on with Mitch McConnell, and let's see if he's gonna finally do some live streaming and talk to the people. So that he say, "Hey, let me put all these doubts and all these speculations to rest. I am here. Hey, this is me. I'm live at the hospital. Today is, Friday, July 10th, 2026, and I'm here talking. And I know Donald Trump is right now at the summit, and I know we just lost, a game to Belgium in the World Cup, and unfortunately, we're done. This is me. Hey, look at this. I have the newspaper, whatever, do something, right? Is that going to happen? That would be the only thing, because right now, any statement coming from his wife that was in China 3 days after the guy was hospitalized, they had to do CPR. They had to bring him back to life. And at his home, according to reports, he died at his home. He had like a cardiac arrest. He went on cardiac arrest, and they have to revive him and take him to the hospital. And you're going to tell me your wife is going to hop on a plane and leave the fucking country when you just literally almost died? And you are so delicate that you have to be 25. Today is 26 days, probably. Today is day number 26 that this guy has been completely out of the public eye, secretly hidden in some hospital in a bed that many claim is just holding his cold body, dead body, brain dead. So keep an eye on that to see what they're going to do, to see if he finally is going to show up, or if you see that after the third, magically, coincidentally, all of a sudden he got so bad, his condition worsened so fast. We're so sad because he was calling us daily, He seemed to be making so much progress, and he dies suddenly. Like, human health is such a difficult thing to predict. But of course, now we need to name a substitute who's going to be from the Republican Party, because it's past August, 3rd. What a coincidence. That's, I guess, good for the country. Then we don't have to go through a special election right now in Kentucky. It's kind of messed up, guys. You even if you're a Republican, you have to admit that something doesn't just feel right, or it doesn't look right. I guess there's some gain there. Let's say that, I told my audience in Spanish last night, a separate podcast. I told them that as much as they have a lot to gain by hiding it, even if he is alive and maybe just having difficulty to breathe and whatever, he's just very limited and not willing to just go public right now, it's in their favor. It helps Republicans right now to still keep it a secret, because it has become this whole mystery. And the more we spend time talking about Mitch McConnell's mysterious disappearance or death or whatever, whatever plot and plan Republicans have to hide it so that they can avoid the special elections, that is time that we're not spending talking about the war and the cost of war and, American troops, the debts, and inflation that went up to 4.2% when Biden left it at 3%. It's now 4.2%, and only 57,000 jobs created last month in June, when Biden would never create less than at least 200,000, in some cases up to 300,000 jobs per month. Remember, Biden created almost 16 million jobs in 4 years. That gives you an average of 4 million jobs per year, meaning at least roughly 333,000 jobs per month, average. And Donald Trump, he's doing awful. Unemployment is up. Groceries are up. New home prices are up. Rents are up. thanks to Mamdani, now we have a rent freeze in New York. People are ecstatic and happy about that overall. And actually, Mamdani just like balanced the budget. They were like almost bankrupt, and all of a sudden now taxing the rich. The rich are not leaving. Actually, the rich are buying more property in New York right now, New York City. They're not leaving. And all of a sudden now we have free childcare, and we have a bunch of other stuff, and they cover all the potholes, and people are happy in New York City right now because he is fucking delivering on what he promised. And how dare Mamdani deliver on what he promised? Who does that? What politician does that and actually, fulfill his promises? So we'll see what happens, guys. We'll see what happens. Now, I'm definitely going to wrap it up. Thank you for all you guys participating here in the chat. Let me read at least maybe one or two comments here quickly before I leave. Let me see here. We have Isaac saying hi. Let me switch to my other software to see if I can put some of these comments on screen. Oh, and I forgot to check the poll. Let me see what the poll on the live chat is saying, if people believe that McConnell is alive or not right now. So, do you think Mitch McConnell is alive? Let me see if I can just, I'm going to take a screenshot so that way I can just share it on. If you're watching live, you definitely can see it. But if you're not inside right now, like the chat section, the live chat, probably you're not going to see the poll. So let me just bring it here so I can share it with you guys live right now. Okay. Okay, here it is. Let me increase this so you can see. So here's the question. Do you think Mitch McConnell is alive? Yes, only 29%. So pretty much 3 people out of every 10 believe, and we have 222 votes. So out of 222 votes, only 29%, 3 of every 10 believe that Mitch McConnell is alive. No is 41%. So that's 4 out of every 10. And I don't know is 30%. I believe that's fair. I believe that is a fair, kind of a fair assessment. I'm not sure. I'm telling you, is there a chance that he is dead right now? Probably. There's a chance that he's dead, brain dead, and they're just keeping him connected so that they can avoid the special elections. They just need to wait, until the 3rd? They just need to wait 23 more days, 24 more days to finally disconnect them, which is not a problem. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this case. There was a case, I believe it was this, like a singer, maybe an artist from Argentina. I think his name is or was Gustavo Cerati. Let me check that for you here online. I believe that this guy, for some reason, he had an accident or something. He went into a coma, and he was in coma for roughly like 10 years. And his mom didn't want to disconnect this guy. She was hopeful that he was going to return. And I believe that she kept him connected to the machines for roughly like 10 years or something like that. So let me check Gustavo Cerati. Let me see. Let me see if I can share. It says, yeah, so look at this. Gustavo Cerati. Let me see if I can. I'll just read this for you. Argentine rock legend dies after long coma. Cerati, 55, suffered a stroke at the end of a concert in May 2010 in Venezuela and never recovered. So this guy, Gustavo Cerati, he suffered a stroke in May 2010 in Venezuela, never recovered. The Argentine musician was the lead singer of the Soda Stereo band, which is a huge success across the Spanish-speaking world. Cerati later pursued a successful solo career. Let me see. I want to see if it says. Okay, so he never recovered. He went into cardiac arrest in the 80s, in 2010. So let me see. Let me see when he died. I believe it was like a long time. Okay, so September 4, 2014. Okay, so he went into a coma in 2010, and his mother, his family, his mom kept him alive until 2014. So for 4 years, they kept them connected to the machines. They kept them alive, hoping that he would return. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. So if some people can keep a person alive, connected to a ventilator, connected, artificially alive for 4 years, a year, 6 months, what would that mean if Mitch McConnell's family kept them alive for just 20 days, 20 more days? I don't know. So there's a high chance that could happen. If it's happening, I know at some point that's going to come out. Sooner or later, somebody is going to say, hey, this is happening. And I was a witness, and that would be a fucking scandal if that's taking place. So who knows? There's a chance that it's just not happening, and maybe he's just like very, very weak. Maybe he's in a really bad shape, but still not brain dead, and he just can't talk, but they just don't want to tell us yet that he is in a really bad shape. Who knows? So that's that. Let me, again, like I said, let me see if I can share a couple of comments. Isaac says, hi. Thank you, Isaac, for tuning in. Adam Create Studio said, what's good? How are you doing? I'm doing good. I hope you're doing good too. Michael Steven says, Trump will do anything to win. Adam says, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. That's a comment. Let me see if I can actually move these comments a little bit. These comments are going to be too small, so it's going to be it's sad because I'm using the vertical format. So it's let me see if there's any chance that I can actually get this to work. Okay, probably. Let me see if I can. Okay, there we go. If I make it a little bit taller, at least it may. You can read a little bit of it. These comments, the format, this what they call lower third comment, it's made more for like horizontal landscape videos, not for this vertical format that I'm using right now. Cat Bomb Clad says they went through so much shit together, but are still so close to each other. Trump's butt cheeks. Oh Lord. Was Mitch ever really alive? Fair point, Ruhan 885. Was Mitch ever really alive? I guess fair point. Fair point. Thorn 6809. Rigging the elections is the goal. True. Michael Stevens impeached Trump. Amen to that. Dylan says, let me get a bump, buddy. Lando Miller says, hi. Hi to you too, man. Thank you. Thorn, by accusing others, Trump is telling on himself. It's always about projection when it comes to Trump. His Trump buddy bought the company Dominion Voting Machines. True, I saw that recently. Man, these people are everywhere. They are everywhere when it comes to ensuring that they somehow can rig the elections and manipulate the elections, not by getting people to vote for them, but by actually preventing people from voting for their opponents, for Democrats. The Ever-Loving Outdoor says, because these states abuse funds. Of course, because you say so. They abuse funds. Are you going to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse right now when you have the most criminal and corrupt president and fraudster president in history, and you really have the balls to go there and talk about states misusing or mismanaging money? Come on, man. Get out of here, man. Hazel says, thank you, Mr. President, for all you do. Yeah, put every other country first, but not America. Breaking every single promise that he made, enacting illegal and unconstitutional tariffs that made everything worse, increasing unemployment. Yeah, thank you for nothing. Let's see. So America should just become a third world country. Hey, let me break it to you. America is already. United States is already pretty much a third world country, especially now when it comes to fascism. Donald Trump is a fascist. So we're pretty much like right there. We may have some better infrastructure than some third world countries, but we're not right now. We're not even, at the top when it comes to pretty much anything. Our economy is not doing, that good. It's actually, people are hurting. Inflation is bad right now. Our education is not good. Our healthcare it's like falling apart because they're so greedy, and it's going to cost you like 4 times as much as in any other place. It's ridiculous. We could go down the list. There's so many things are just going down the drain. We're not protecting climate right now because of Trump and his cronies. AI is taking over, and all these data centers are screwing up the whole country. Crime is through the roof. We have more guns than any other country. You have 50% of the world's guns right now because of this stupid, NRA and all the, this. We have the Second Amendment, yes, but right now this is just sick. There's an obsession with promoting this whole gun-loving culture with zero accountability and zero logical and reasonable laws that would help us, control some of the violence that we're seeing in this country. There's so much shit going on here. The drug problem, homeless people, everywhere. It's just, this is not good. Mental health right now here is at the toilet, in the toilet too. So we can think that we're not a third world country and we may have some opportunities that other people don't have. And we still, like I said, we have infrastructure and certain benefits, but we're going down, and we're going down fast. Things are going in the wrong direction, honestly. So who cares? Who cares your problem? Who cares your problem? Yeah, I'm not sure or to who that was directed to or why. Fulton County, yep, Fulton County. That's where it happened. Tulsi Gabbard is a pretty broad. Hi, Daniel Esmeralda. Hi to you. Thank you for being here. Trump won't seize your comment. Won't see your comment, Hazel. Trump won't see your comment, Hazel. True, there's so many people defending Trump here, free on social media when Trump is never thinking about them and would never help them and doesn't care, for them. Shamo Therapy says, shut the fuck up. Oh, yeah. It's so much for freedom of speech, right? Coming from the freedom of speech bandwagon. Yeah, shut the fuck up. These people are special, guys. Truly special. TDS, by any chance, how about TDRS in your case? Hammy Hamster says, TDS by any chance, how about you suffering from TDRS? Trump dick riding syndrome. TDRS. That's a new one that probably you are suffering. Go and ask your doctor, hey, may I be suffering from TDRS? Probably. TDS is a fascist dog whistle. True, his pastor is an unimportant person. Dylan, you look like the final boss in George Floyd, the video game. Probably, man. I look like a bunch of people, especially a bunch of bald people. It is what it is. But I'm fine with that. Clearly, your ex-wife takes after you. I hear she's out there draining balls right now. Okay, yeah, and you're here defending Donald Trump, being his little, and loyal lackey on social media, working overtime for Donald Trump for free when he's not taking care of you. What a pathetic, stupid person, man. Quincy says they'll say he's alive until after August 8th, to secure a process of not having a replacement. True. The rental detention centers need to be closed and sue the owners. Sue the owners of poverty. The owners of the property. I'm not sure the last thing what you wanted to say there, but anyway. Hello, I just want to let you know one thing. Jesus loves you. Amen. Amen. I'm not, very spiritual. I'm not that much of a Christian. I used to be a pastor. I used to be a preacher. Not anymore in this stage of my life. But I'm not opposed to people wishing me, some blessings and telling me that Jesus loves me. I have no problem with that. Have a blessed night. Thank you, dude. Hey, sometimes I get a lot of hate. If I can get some Christian love, I'm down. Thank you. Kevin doesn't care. Says, I know that my neighbors are illegal and I am thinking about calling to report them. There's no such thing as illegal. There's documented and undocumented. And if that's the case, if you really cared, Kevin, about the law and about legal, people abiding by the law, probably you wouldn't be defending Donald Trump. Probably you wouldn't be voting for a convicted felon, 34 felonies, whose Trump organization was found liable in 2023 of 15 counts of criminal tax evasion, whose family was found liable, and him included, of fraud, lying to the banks and to insurance companies. And, the list goes on and on, twice impeached, twice declared insurrectionist. But yeah, all of a sudden you are concerned about brown people who may be undocumented while you defend the most criminal president ever in history. Probably, I'm going to tell you, you have to go to some shithole around the world to find a president that has been so corrupt as Donald Trump, and that may have as many felonies on his resume, on his record. So this is a double standard and a hypocrisy from these people. Totally pathetic. Kevin doesn't care. Of course you don't care. Of course you don't care about the the law or the Constitution. Of course you don't. And then they want to be this this hypocrite and come up with this double standard, trying to talk about we care about the law. We care about people coming into this country legally while we have the most criminal president ever, man. Kind of stupid, right? The man says, plus you add them billions and billions Biden gave to Ukraine and we're going to go broke. Well, we never went broke. And right now the country is worse under Donald Trump because he's spending billions and billions, way more than Biden spent, with Ukraine, at least during his term. Donald Trump has spent probably as much, if not more, in just 1 year with this whole war. So I don't know. You guys are bad at this. Like, you're really bad at this. If I was a Republican right now and a Trump supporter, I would try to sit down and fucking come up with some things that make sense, not things that I'm gonna use to attack, talking points that I'm gonna attack Democrats on social media just for that to blow up in my face, and backfire immediately. Because everything you guys try to accuse Biden or Kamala or Democrats of, Donald Trump has done 10 times worse in just 1 year. So how about you, take some time to educate yourself before you make a fool of yourself on social media, please. Congress gave the aid to Ukraine. Thank you, Thorne. That's a great point. I was talking about this on my Spanish podcast last week, saying like they're always talking about all this money that Biden gave. Like Biden opened, the United States wallet. Here it is, my decision. No, all these budgets were approved by Congress with bipartisan support. So, again, that's a great point that you reminded me of, Thorne 6809, because these people are so, so naive. They're not so uneducated. They don't even know that all these budgets going to Ukraine for help are Congress approved. So why are you not criticizing all the Republicans that voted in favor of these budgets to be approved? And even under Donald Trump, are you going to say that Donald Trump never gave money to Ukraine? Man, look, man, that's so easy. It's just like taking candy away from a kid. So easy. I'm telling you, you have to be a special kind of, I don't know, dumb person or stupid to be like a Trump supporter at this point. Maybe the first time around, maybe I would give you a pass on the second one. I would have, thought that, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I would have not been too eager to give you a pass on the second one. But then a third time, and now even still defending him after everything, after the whole Epstein thing, Donald Trump opposing the Epstein, publishing of the files, and now going into war and doing everything that he promised that he wouldn't do, breaking every single promise. And you guys, you're fool me once, yeah, I love you. Fool me twice, I love you more. Fool me 3 times, man, you are my man. Fool me 4 times, you are the love of my life. That's the MAGA, that's the MAGA lackeys, fan base. They're just like so irrational. But they feel happy. They feel happy somehow because they're alpha males, right? We're part of the gang, the real white superior, and intelligent. Even though we don't show it, but yeah, somehow we're more intelligent That's why we're MAGA. That's why we follow a convicted felon and support him and love him and allow him to, just, do that deep. Man, this makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. Sometimes you just think and realize that there's no hope for the human race, unfortunately. It's sad. Dude, he's not Biden. Yeah, we know that he's not Biden because Biden is not a criminal, not a convicted felon, not a sexual abuser, not a pedophile, not probably an actual sexual predator, kids sexual predator, probably, if they release all the files, we'll know. So yeah, he's definitely not Biden. We know that. That's why we wanted Biden to win and not Trump. We didn't want a criminal. Trump is so stupid and demented, 100% in agreement there. Incredibly disrespectful. He's not mentally prepared to do anything. These other leaders look at them as a fool. True. They look at Donald Trump as a fool. What's the earbuds for? Kevin doesn't care. We'll see. I'm not sure what he's talking about. If he's asking me, but if you're referring to this as a monitor so I can know the audio is going out, number one. And number two, when I'm playing a video like I did at the beginning of this show, I can hear what actually is playing on the video to ensure the audio is good. And of course, so I can comment on that too. I don't know. If you have to ask that, probably you don't know what what these things are for. Probably that explains why you're here defending Donald Trump anyway. What is cool in the most innocent way. GOP letting Trump get away with his crimes will damage their party for a long time. It will. True. 100% true. Kevin, the suicidal empathy of Democrats gave us no choice but to vote for Trump. Oh, so now you're gonna blame it on us. You guys had a choice. Remember, you guys had a little thing called a primary where you had a bunch of different Republicans candidates. Many of whom were not criminals or sexual abusers or close to Jeffrey Epstein or fraudsters. So yeah, that's 100% on you, bro. It was your people who voted Donald Trump in that primary. So it is what it is. And even in this after for 2020, like he won in 2016, 2015, 2016, that primary, and then he won in 2020 again. So I'm not sure what you're talking about yet. You guys wanted this motherfucker. You wanted the felon. So enjoy your felon right now. Don't be putting that on. I'm gonna screenshot this comment because this is textbook the display of the fullness of these people. They're so full of shit and hypocrisy that they don't want to own their problem. You see, and that's why it's gonna take longer for them to get back up as a political party because they don't want to admit that they failed. The party failed, and voters failed too by voting for the wrong people. That's on you. That's a you problem, 100%, 100%. So let me screenshot this. I'm gonna use this on my Spanish show, and every now and then I'm gonna just show it. Let me put this on full display here. How weak these people are, that they make a mistake and they're not willing to own it. They chose the wrong guy and now they want to blame everybody else. Typical Donald Trump. It's always somebody else's fault. So why would I expect anything different from you, Kevin? Any accountability coming from you? You guys don't believe in accountability. You always believe in blaming somebody else for your problems. That's the kind of strong man that you are. Alpha male, alpha MAGA male, a guy who can't take accountability. Man, that's weakness. Talk about Epstein files. We should talk more about the Epstein files. True. So we want some spicy news from DC. It's not business as usual in America. Can you talk about Graham Plattner's scandal? I can. I'm about to leave, but I will. I'll say a thing or two. I think he should have been gone since the first accusation came about. I think you have no business in leading, any position in any party, any political party. I think he should switch to the Republican Party because in the Republican Party, the more abuser you are towards women, the more you sexually abuse women, The more you are closer to Jeffrey Epstein, the more you steal billions of dollars from just, hardworking people or sick people, innocent, hardworking Americans, the better candidate you are to become president of the United States. If you're an insurrectionist, if you're a fraudster, if you're a tax evading cheater, yeah, they love you, like right there. So I thought, and I said it on my Spanish show, that he should have been gone. Fortunately, the party has already cut ties with him. Bernie Sanders did it. AOC and many others asked him and told him, bro, you need to go. And now in Maine, the whole Democratic machine, there, the party is going forward with trying to come up with some quick, I guess, special election or something, like a quick primary or something, so that they can choose a candidate. They have 3 really good candidates there that could just replace this guy. I don't think he should go forward, period. Regardless of if he is or not guilty, because somebody accusing you, I know that we live in the United States. And as much as Republicans and MAGA Trump followers always consider Donald Trump innocent, even when there's already been an accusation, a trial, a verdict, and finally he's been declared, he's been ruled, a sentence. They still want to call him innocent. They still want to say that he's innocent. But, we have a presumption of innocence. But, guys, this is for the MAGA crew, MAGA people. The presumption of innocence only works before you have a trial. After you have a trial and it's, proven beyond any reasonable doubt, before a jury of your peers, like in most of Trump's cases, that you're guilty, your presumption of innocence goes down the toilet, down the drain. It goes away. So you guys have to stop calling Donald Trump innocent. In Graham's case, I don't know if he's innocent or not. I know he has to focus on his legal stuff, and I wouldn't want him leading, this party from the Senate or from Maine, trying to stay there, saying that it's not important to listen to any concern when it comes to, women's sexual abuse or even crimes, any corruption crime, whatever it is. If you're accused, you're under investigation at that point, that should be something to take into account. And I believe the party did the right thing by just asking him officially to, actually it was pretty much universal. Now I believe it was like almost everybody asked him in the Democratic side to just quit. Is he gonna do it? I'm not sure. I think he's resisting, and he was trying to interfere somehow with the main Democratic, people there that were trying to put this process together to choose a replacement. So we'll see what happens there. But, this shouldn't be a scandal, at least not for Republicans, considering that they're supporting not only Trump in the presidency, who happens to be the most criminal person in politics probably ever in the United States. They're also supporting Ken Paxton down in Texas, who right now is traveling with his own mistress when he's been, he was in the middle of a divorce process, and he was accused by his own wife of, cheating, committing adultery. That's why she was supposedly divorcing him. And then on top of that, his own party, Republicans in Texas, impeach this guy, Ken Paxton. They tried to impeach him. I think they weren't able to get it done, but they went against him. They tried to impeach him because he was corrupt. And that's the guy that they're supporting 100%. They're standing behind him, and Donald Trump endorsed him. And you know what? Even more so, Donald Trump was asked, what do you think about this whole, Graham Plattner situation back in Maine? And he's like, people believe all sorts of things that, accusations. Donald Trump is not on board with accusing him because he's been accused. Right now, he just lost the $5 million appeal process at the Supreme Court with the E. Jean Carroll case for sexual abuse and defamation. Now he was ordered, actually yesterday, Thursday, he was ordered finally to pay. You have to pay up. There's no more delaying. Remember, the $5 million was put in an escrow account back in 2023. So Donald Trump didn't have the money. It wasn't an escrow account. And the judge yesterday just ordered for the funds to be released. And Donald Trump was saying, no, please don't release it yet. Let me go back to the Supreme Court and ask them to reconsider their rejection of my case. Donald Trump appealed and the Supreme Court rejected him. They said, we're not taking up your case. So that means that the lower court and then the appeals court decisions, rulings in favor of E. Jean Carroll remained in place. The Supreme Court said, we're not touching this. This is two private parties. There's nothing here. There's no constitutional violation, nothing for us to see or do here. Sorry, Donald Trump. And Donald Trump now went back to the court to say, please let me ask my friends in the Supreme Court to please reconsider, maybe give me a second chance to look into my case. And that would mean, look at how stupid that is. That would mean that he would have to ask the Supreme Court to admit that somehow they made a wrong call on the first time around, that they just made a mistake, which never happens. The Supreme Court is not all of a sudden going to say, yeah, we made a mistake. Now we want to take your case because we messed up the first time. That doesn't make any sense. It's absolutely highly unlikely. But even though it's unlikely and it's stupid and it makes them look desperate, do you think Donald Trump is not going to try it? Of course he's going to try it. He is a master at delaying. He even tried to tell the judge, you know what? I want to now ask the Supreme Court to reconsider my case, and I want to get a new lawyer because I believe that my current lawyer didn't present this well to the Supreme Court. So I'm going to ask you to allow me to get this second chance before the Supreme Court, and I'm going to ask for more time so that my new lawyer can get familiar with the case. And the judge told him, there is no case, Mr. Donald Trump. There is no case. This case is over. It was rejected by the Supreme Court. That means there is no case. This case has been over. You ran out of appeals. You ran out of, tricks. You ran out of bullets. So there is no case for a new lawyer to go and familiarize himself with. And there is not going to be time for you to go and ask for a reconsideration process because I'm ordering these funds to be released. Oh boy. Oh boy. That was hard. That was very, very hard on Donald Trump. And I'm pretty sure he's not happy about that. Let me actually do this. I have a video from Brian Tyler Cohen that I used so that we could translate it to Spanish, so that we could share it on Brian Tyler Cohen Español. So if any of you guys speak Spanish, please go and follow Brian Tyler Cohen Español, which I am in charge of for 3 years now since we created that channel with Brian, and I've been working with Brian. So we just shared a legal breakdown episode. Brian has a series with Glenn Kirshner, ex-prosecutor, ex-federal prosecutor, 30 years of experience. Now he's a college law and criminal justice professor. Obviously well experienced, very knowledgeable. He has a very deep knowledge about the whole criminal justice system and the law too. And they were just analyzing this ruling by Judge Kaplan, literally mopping the floor with Donald Trump with all these excuses and tricks and gimmicks, trying to get away with another new period of delay. And the judge was just not having it. They were like, hell no, there's not going to be no reconsideration time. And no, we're not giving you more time so that you can appoint a new lawyer after the Supreme Court fucking rejected you. And you think we're going to grant you more time to get a new lawyer up to speed with the case so that you can avoid this money going to E. Jean Carroll? She's more than entitled to this money. She's been entitled for 3 years. And we're not playing these games anymore. Mr. Sexual Abuser, defaming and aggressor Donald Trump. Let me find this video here for you guys so we can share it. This was a really good episode, like I said, with Brian and Glenn Kirshner. So I'm here, and sorry, I wasn't even thinking of sharing this. It just came up in the context of planters. Graham Planter's case. Plattner's. I'm saying planters like the peanuts. Plattner's case. So let me see if it's this one here. It'll take me just a second. Let me see if it's this one here. Brian Tyler Cohen. I need to download the video. Okay, I have it, but I need to download the video, so it'll take me just a second, guys. Anyway, I'm not. If you have to leave, you can leave. If not, it'll be just a second. But this is an episode worth watching. Let me see here. Let me see if this is the video. We have like 2 or 3 episodes of different topics and rulings, and I'm not sure which one of these it may be. So let me check.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we have bad news for Trump at the hands of one of his own judges who he appointed. Can you explain what just happened in this cataclysmic ruling?
Yeah, Brian, this blockbuster ruling is really good news for the American people and for the rule of law more broadly, because a Trump-appointed judge named William Ray down in Georgia just threw out a mega grand jury subpoena issued by...
This is a great case, but this is not the one. So let me just go back here and try to find it. Well, it may take me more time than it's really worth now. I promise I'll try to bring it tomorrow. But anyway, the judge wasn't having it. The judge was just so mad. Try to find it. Try to go to Brian Tyler Cohen's English channel and try to listen to this Legal Breakdown episode with Glenn Kirshner about the E. Jean Carroll ruling. Actually, that may be faster for me if I just go to Brian's channel here on YouTube. I may find that here quickly, and maybe I can play that segment for you here. So just a second here. Let me go to Brian Tyler Cohen. Here's the channel, and let me go to the video section. This is a Trump-appointed judge, so that's not the one. E. Jean Carroll case. Okay, so here it is. Let me open it.
We have some major breaking news here. A federal judge in New
And let me bring just a quick screen here, a browser screen, so you guys can actually see it. So, okay, here it is, screen share, and let me increase this a little bit. It's gonna look small, guys. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time, just trying to like adjust this, but at least you can see a little bit, follow along, and I can play the audio for you here.
New York just ordered Donald Trump to pay E. Jean Carroll the $5 million that a jury had awarded her, plus almost $800,000 in interest, after finding him liable for sexually abusing and defaming Carroll. Judge Lewis Kaplan's order came after the Supreme Court, back on June 29th, rejected Trump's petition to even hear his appeal. There were no noted dissents, not even from the 3 justices who Trump himself appointed. And still, even after that, Trump's lawyers went back to the court on Tuesday night at the 11th hour, trying to convince the judge to freeze the money anyway while they cook up yet another long-shot bid for reconsideration. Of course, Kaplan wasn't having it. He looked at the actual agreement that Trump signed 3 years ago, the one that said the money gets released the moment the Supreme Court denies cert, and ordered it dispersed. Carroll's attorney, Roberta Kaplan, put it as plainly as she could in her filing. This is the end of the line. But there's a bigger story at play here, and that is the asymmetry between the two sides. Because just this week, we watched Democrats, practically the entire party from Chuck Schumer to Elizabeth Warren to Ro Khanna, move within hours to call for Graham Plattner to drop out of the Maine Senate race over a sexual assault allegation. Bernie Sanders, his single earliest and most prominent backer in the entire race, told him to step aside. So whatever you think about the politics of that story, here's what is undeniable. When one of their own is accused, Democrats will treat it as disqualifying, immediately, publicly, with their names attached. Now, compare that to the total deafening silence from Republicans on Donald Trump. This is a man that a jury found, not allegedly found, unanimously under oath, sexually abused a woman and then defamed her when she came forward. Not once, twice, in 2 separate trials, totaling now over $100 million once you add an interest across both verdicts. And yet, I want you to name me one sitting Republican senator who has said that this disqualifies him from office. You won't find one because there isn't one. There is a canyon-sized gap between how each party treats its own when confronted with the exact same category of allegation. And that gap tells you everything you need to know about which party has actually decided that some lines can't be crossed versus which party has decided that there are no lines anymore so long as the guy crossing them wins elections. Just a quick note here to say that if you appreciate my work, which is and always will be 100% free, a small ask is if you could please pre-order my new book, The Day After, which explores how Democrats must finally wield power if they're fortunate enough to get it back. I'll also be on tour in DC, New York, and LA mid-July. You can grab tickets to the tour and you can pre-order the book at the same link, which I'll put on the screen and in the post description of this video. You can also find them at briantylercohen.com/book. Again, I'll never paywall a single piece of content, but this is the one time that I'll ask for some support for a book that I really think meets this moment. Thanks so much. Which brings me to the second point, because I don't think this is just about sexual abuse, even though it is about sexual abuse. It's also about money. And this is the most Trump story imaginable. This is a guy who has spent his entire presidency finding every conceivable way to funnel taxpayer money into his own businesses. Golf outings billed to the Secret Service, properties leased back to his own government, tariff policy that's functionally a multi-billion-dollar tax hike on the American consumer that he gets to claim credit for negotiating. He will spend your money, billions of it, without blinking, without an ounce of hesitation. But watch what happens the second it's his $5 million on the line. Suddenly it's appeals, it's the Supreme Court petitions, it's late night court filings begging a judge not to release funds that he already agreed to release in writing. It's arguing that paying a debt he owes personally constitutes irreparable harm, but somehow taking billions from the public doesn't harm anybody at all. He will take everything from all of us and not give up anything of his own. And if you want to understand Donald Trump's actual value system in one sentence, it's that one. Your money is his to spend, and his money is not even his to lose. All of which is a point that I discussed with Glenn Kirshner here. You know, I think what's especially interesting, and you alluded to this before, is that Trump will bend over backwards to prevent himself from having to pay a single cent if he can help it. And yet, at the same time, this guy is fleecing the federal government and the American people for every dollar he can get. I'm going to read a quick rundown based on his latest financial disclosure of how much money this populist champion Donald Trump has made. $635 million from the Trump meme coin, $594 million from World Liberty Financial token and stablecoin sales. That's a crypto venture that he co-founded with his sons. $65 million from selling equity in that same company. $80 million from media settlements from ABC, CBS, Meta, and YouTube. His total crypto haul was over $1.4 billion in a single year. And his net worth has tripled from $2.4 billion to $6.3 billion. And this motherfucker won't pay $5 million that he has owed E. Jean Carroll based on that judgment that he's owed her as of 3 years ago, is still doing everything he can to make sure that he doesn't have to pay a single cent. This guy will fleece Americans for every dime he can get, but not spend a single dime of his own money if he can help it.
With apologies to motherfuckers. And I know, that feels like an irreverent thing to say. But Brian, this man has profited off the presidency in a way that is, at a minimum, horrifically unseemly and obscene and depraved. And come January 2029, when the rule of law is again a thing, these matters must be investigated to see if all this grifting and profiteering off of his office violates any of our nation's laws. And I am betting that a full, fair, aggressive, apolitical investigation into what Donald Trump is doing to the American people may very well disclose criminal conduct. But as you say, he's making billions and billions of dollars.
This is great, guys. But even this one, even though I saw Glenn Kirshner there, this is not the video I was looking for. I'm actually looking for one that is actually a legal breakdown episode. So let me try to find that one, which is the legal breakdown. Trump humility. Okay. This is one of them too. He covered much of this here. So check this out.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, just days ago, we had an explosive piece of news when even the Supreme Court refused to weigh in and help Donald Trump not pay the $5 million that he owed E. Jean Carroll. Well, his team has asked E. Jean Carroll's team to give them a delay. He asked the court to give them a delay. We finally have a decision on that request. Can you explain what just happened?
Yeah, it looks like Donald Trump is running out of rope, and it looks like Judge Kaplan, who presided over both E. Jean Carroll defamation trials, is just about done with Donald Trump's ridiculous attempts to delay one after another. Let me first set up his most recent attempt to delay. Now, remember, E. Jean Carroll whooped Donald Trump's butt in the trial court, and a jury awarded her $5 million for Donald Trump having sexually assaulted and defamed her. E. Jean Carroll then whooped Donald Trump's butt in the Court of Appeals, and then Donald Trump, continued to delay trying to have to pay the $5 million money judgment by saying, wait, I'm going to get the Supreme Court to review and undo that jury award against me. And the Supreme Court just recently said, no, Donald, we are not accepting the case for review, and we're certainly not undoing that jury award. So really, you would think there's nowhere left to go, right? Well, leave it to Donald Trump and his lawyers to come up with one more bullshit attempt to try to, keep from having to pay the $5 million he owes E. Jean Carroll. They said, well, wait a minute. I now have a new lawyer, says Donald Trump, and my new lawyer needs time to get up to speed on the case. Well, Brian, there are a couple of problems with that, and I think Judge Kaplan sensed those problems. One, there is no more case. Donald Trump lost at every turn, and he said, well, but what I want to do is ask the Supreme Court to change its mind. It's something called a petition for reconsideration. Guess what? The Supreme Court is not going to say, you know what, Donald, we were wrong. We really should have accepted the case for review and ruled in your favor. I have not done a legal search, but I'm not sure the Supreme Court has ever accepted a case for review, on a petition for reconsideration. Why? They would have to decide that what they just did was dead wrong. Judges don't often do that. I'm not saying it's never happened. So here's the other thing. The reason Donald Trump now says he needs a new lawyer is because the lawyer who represented him in the E. Jean Carroll appeal in this case is now a judge, courtesy of Donald Trump appointing him to the federal bench, the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, a guy named Justin Smith, who, I looked at his experience and I don't think he is equipped or adequately experienced to be an Eighth Circuit Federal Court of Appeals judge. But you know what, Brian? Here's a little fun fact about Judge Smith. Fun for Donald Trump, but not fun for the American people or the health of our democracy. Do you know how many Donald Trump lawyers are now occupying the upper echelons of the federal government? Justin Smith is a federal circuit court judge. Emil Bove, one of Donald Trump's prior defense attorneys, is a federal court judge. Todd Blanche, one of Donald Trump's former, and I would argue current defense attorneys, is the acting attorney general, and Trump is trying to make him the permanent attorney general. And then there is John Sauer, who is the solicitor general, another one of Donald Trump's former defense attorneys. And John Sauer was the one who argued in front of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals that a president could go so far as to send SEAL Team 6 to assassinate his political rivals, and he very likely could not be criminally prosecuted for it. And now let's bring this full circle. You know what lawyer was assisting John Sauer in making that horrific, murderous argument that a president should get to murder people with immunity from prosecution? Well, the person, one of the attorneys
crazy.
who assisted John Sauer in that was Justin Smith. So we've now come full circle. So where we stand right now is Judge Kaplan said, you know what? I'm putting Trump and his lawyers on an expedited schedule in accordance with E. Jean Carroll's lawyer's request. And you have until July 7th, Donald, and your lawyers to make whatever argument you want to make as to why I shouldn't immediately, go about dispersing the funds. And we'll talk about how much the judgment is now up to, given the compounding interest, to disperse the funds forthwith. So now the next thing we have, because there always seems to be another court filing, these things almost seem never to go final. On July 7th, Trump's legal team will have to file its last gasp at trying to convince Judge Kaplan to hold off dispersing the funds to E. Jean Carroll. And within 3 days of that, I don't even know that E. Jean Carroll's lawyers will need 3 days to respond, but within 3 days of that, E. Jean Carroll's lawyers can file a reply to whatever Donald Trump's lawyers file, and then it is ultimate judgment time. And I predict at my own peril that E. Jean Carroll will very soon get those monies distributed to her that a jury awarded her now 3 years ago.
Just a quick note here to say,
Well, guys, so that's Brian Tyler Cohen. So I would suggest that you go and support his channel. Brian Tyler Cohen, actually the top individual, as just an individual creator, the top podcaster pretty much in the country. He's over 5 million followers right now. It has billions of views, and he's reaching a ton of people. He just launched his new book called The Day After, a great book, talking about how Democrats should prepare to actually, finally start using power the way they should if they're ever, they're lucky to recover it. But I wanted to say something here because a lot of people are, talking right now in the comments here about the E. Jean Carroll case and saying, oh, she wasn't raped, she wasn't this. Guys, get over it. Two separate court cases, okay? Two separate court cases. And they always had a jury when it came to these cases. There was always a jury involved. Donald Trump had his lawyers. This is not some wild accusation on social media. This was proven beyond a reasonable doubt, before a jury of his peers, which his own lawyers selected. Because if you guys don't know, there's a jury selection process and there is a random pool and people come in and lawyers and prosecutors can challenge these juries to finally reject some and choose the ones that they believe that are more fair and balanced and that would do good, as jury during jury duty. So that number one. Number two, you can say all you want that you believe it was bullshit, this and that maybe the arguments weren't like the defense, Trump's defense didn't do a good job. But let me ask you this. Donald Trump had a chance to do two things and he didn't do them. Number one, he had a chance to sit and under oath testify and allow, obviously in this case, both the prosecution and his defense to just ask him questions so that he could speak. He could talk directly to the jury. And he didn't do it. And then he will go outside of the courthouse and stand before the press and say, oh, they just like right now are, what's the name? Well, in Spanish, we say mordaza. When they just ask you to, I forgot what this is the name in English. Sorry. When you just can't speak publicly, the judge will tell you that you just can't make any statements publicly about the case, right? So he's like, they don't allow me to talk. I can't talk right now. They don't want to allow me to have my, freedom of speech so I can talk to the public. No, because he was threatening people and he was doxing people and people from the court and talking about violence and stuff like that, instead of just, doing normal stuff. But still, he had a chance to, instead of crying like a fucking whiny baby outside of the court to the press, he had a chance to speak directly to the jury and answer questions under oath, and he never did. Number one. And number two, which is the most damning in my view, Donald Trump had a chance when the case started to do a DNA test. Why? Because they had a dress. Let me see if I can find the dress because a lot of people haven't seen this. They did present the dress. So let me get it. E. Jean Carroll dress DNA. Check this. Let me find the picture. I'm just gonna download it quickly here, and once I download it, I'm gonna show it to you. So when the case started, because there is a process for these things. When the case started, they asked Donald Trump to take a DNA test. And Donald Trump rejected doing the DNA test. What was his excuse? Well, I am so sure that I didn't do this because I didn't even know this lady. I had never seen her before in my life, even though there was pictures of Donald Trump and his wife with E. Jean Carroll and her husband together at some social event, and Donald Trump was talking to them, super, super happy. So anyway, he said, I am so sure that I didn't do this that I don't have to play the game of like just doing a DNA test because I know I didn't do it. Therefore, I don't have to prove anything. Well, that didn't sit well with the jury because it sounds to me that even though you have a right to not incriminate yourself, you have a right to remain silent. And in some cases you do. In some cases, they can actually force you to speak. And if you don't, then, you're held in contempt. But in this case, it was a choice for him to not speak. And it was a choice for him to not do the test that would have like completely exonerated him. And he rejected it. Why? Let me show you the dress. I have the dress here now. So let me show you the dress and explain to you an actual technical forensic detail that MAGA lackeys normally don't want to consider. Why? Because it doesn't help him. It doesn't help the narrative that, no, this was all made up. He never did this. So if he was so sure, when this happens with, let me make this bigger, even though it's going to cover me for now. So let me show you this. When somebody believes that, their wife cheated, they want to normally get a DNA test. And this happens all the time. Sometimes it may come from the wife's side or from the husband's side. Somebody wants a DNA test. Or maybe even the court made demand. Okay, so we have a person in court saying, I'm not going to pay child support because that's not my kid. So you can have all of a sudden the wife saying, well, you know what? I am not doing the DNA test because I am so sure this kid is yours that I'm not going to do this test. I don't need it. I know it's yours. And the court should believe me just because, right? Just because I say so. Fuck that shit. We have these forensic now, tools for a reason. And if you really wanted to be exonerated, you would have said, Donald Trump would have said, you know what? I am so fucking sure that I never met this lady, let alone attacked her sexually, that I'm going to do 4 DNA tests if you want. Take a full gallon of my blood. Take a full gallon out and do all the tests that you want to do. You're not going to find a single fucking drop of my blood or my DNA that's going to be a match. I can assure you that right now, and the world is going to know it, and my wife is going to know it, my family is going to know it, and we're going to expose that bitch. Did he do that? No. He fucking declined it. He rejected the opportunity to get the DNA test done. And the window closed because you have, there's obviously a time and a place for, discovery and all of that. And at some point, once it's done, it's done. So when he had a chance to do it, he didn't want to do it. So eventually, when the case started moving forward and Donald Trump wanted another delay tactic, all of a sudden, now his team said, you know what? We're reconsidering this whole DNA thing. Maybe we should stop. This whole process is going too fast. And let's stop so that we can talk again about, DNA. And the judge said, no, we're not playing those games. We're already past that point. And you had the chance and you declined it. And Donald Trump didn't do it. So even though later on he said, outside of the window to do discovery and address the DNA part of it, he said no, he declined it. And eventually, when he thought it was probably convenient to maybe, again, use another delay tactic, they used the excuse of, oh, what about we do it now? But then at that point, the judge said, sorry, we are past that point, which is normal in, legal, in the legal arena. The people are not going to be playing games. The courts don't play games. It's the same happens with, officers. When an officer is asking you to do, let's do a sobriety test, or you start fooling around, and you don't answer whatever they need, or you don't provide, proof of, ID or whatever, or license registration, at some point they're going to run out of patience, and they're going to decide that they can't arrest you. And then the people, once they get arrested, no, let me give you what I was going to give you. I can give you my ID. We can do this. We can do that. And the cops will tell them, we're past that point. We gave you the chances to talk. We gave you the chance to cooperate. You didn't want to cooperate. We're past that. So that happened to Donald Trump in the trial. But look at this. And then they said, well, we wanted to do the DNA. The judge wouldn't allow it. Nothing prevented Donald Trump from getting an independent DNA and offering it. Still, okay, I'm gonna do this DNA test, and I'm gonna ask, the prosecutors. I'm gonna ask, I don't know, the Southern District of New York, whoever was dealing with this case. Well, in this case, he could have done like maybe something independent, because it wasn't the Southern District. This was a civil case, so it was a private lawyer. But anyway, the thing is that he could have done a DNA test and made it public. Hey, here's the DNA test. I want to offer it so they can do a match even outside of the trial. Let's do a match. E. Jean Carroll, if you really say this is true, let's choose a lab. Let me choose a lab. Here's my DNA. I'm going to supply it to a lab, a neutral lab. You can even pick the lab that you want. And we're going to do this outside of the trial, so that I can show that this is not a match. But when he had the chance to do so, here you have the dress. This is the dress that she was wearing. And they found DNA of 4 different people. This dress had DNA of 4 different people. One of those DNAs that they found belonged to a man. It belonged to a man. So maybe that's why Donald Trump didn't want to do the DNA test when he had the chance to do it, because probably he knew that there was a chance that some of that DNA could have been his. So to me, this was one of the biggest, the biggest mistakes. He had a chance to put this fucking thing to rest and do a DNA test, which frees a ton of people from death row these days. We have people that have been in death row for years and nobody comes forward, and all of a sudden a new DNA test appears and bam, these people are saved from death row, or they are released from prison where they had been for, long years. Donald Trump didn't want to do the DNA test. He never wanted to testify under oath. He never wanted to do the DNA unequivocal test. Why? If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't fear doing the test, the DNA test. So that to me tells me everything I need to know. Aside from everything that was actually presented to the jury that they found sufficient, including testimony from other victims from the time, patterns, witnesses, plus E. Jean Carroll's own testimony, which was deemed to be real. It was an honest testimony. So you can cry all you want. Donald Trump had the chance to do the DNA test, and he didn't do it. He was too afraid that was going to be probably a match, very likely, and he didn't do it. So it is what it is, guys. That's the situation. MAGA lackeys can cry all they want. As of today, Donald Trump is officially, 100% officially, a sexual abuser by all levels of courts in our country. A lower court, an appeals court, the Supreme Court. He exhausted every single court available in this country, including a court full of 6 Republicans, 3 of which he appointed himself. This is the most far-right court, Supreme Court, we've had in the history of this country, pretty much. And even this country said, we're not getting involved in that case. The verdict, your sentencing and the verdict stands. The lower court, the appeals court, they both ruled that you abused this lady sexually, that you were an aggressor, and that you defamed her twice. So now you have to just pay up. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys, you are defending not only a pedophile who said that he would date his own daughter if she weren't his daughter, signaling that he liked his daughter sexually because you go out on a date with somebody that you want to go to bed with normally, more often than not. Rarely somebody wants to go on a date just to, to read a book, normally if you date somebody, you're saying I would literally have sex with this person if she wasn't my daughter. That's literally what he said. And he saw this little girl that was 10 years going on an escalator. And what did he say? I'm going to date her in 10 years, telling everybody around him, I like this 10-year-old girl. I will date her in 10 years. I like sexually a 10-year-old. I'm attracted to her. I would like to date her. But that's what he said in public. I'm attracted to this 10-year-old pretty much. I would date her. That's just, paraphrasing. Why would you go out with that girl in 10 years unless you're saying, I like this girl right now sexually? You have to be a special kind of creep to say shit like that, especially about your daughter. And then last week, I want to have a threesome with my own boys, his own boys. He wanted to have a threesome. He said, what kind of, educated, respectful person says shit like that in front of kids, in front of teenagers? I remember the time when Donald Trump he spent like 13 minutes, literally, like 13 minutes talking about Arnold Palmer's junk size in front of his whole rally audience that included kids. He was talking about Arnold Palmer, a friend of his, supposedly a famous golf player. I don't even know who the F he is. And he was so amazed of the size. He was so impressed. Oh, this guy, he was a man, a real man. And you can see the drips of, like it's how you call it in English, whatever, and he was just like salivating. That's the word. He was salivating as he was saying, oh, this guy, he was so big. He was so man. That was a real man. When guys shower with this guy, they were like, oh my God, that is huge. It's so big. Oh Lord. This is the same guy that grabbed the microphone at a rally. Remember when he grabbed a microphone and started started to perform the act of I don't know, just some oral fantasy with a microphone that signaled something weird. Remember that, guys? Let me show you this. When he was talking about, Arnold Palmer's junk size, there was a kid right there. And I have a picture of that because I remember that I used it. I have kept this, available so that I can use it on my show, and I have on many different occasions. I have. So let me find it here quickly, and I'm gonna share it with you because this was so crazy. The moment I saw that there was a girl, sometimes they have all these MAGA people with the MAGA hats and shirts behind Donald Trump when he's at a rally. It was just that. But this time there was a family with a little girl that probably was maybe 10 or 12 years old. And she has to listen, at that point, the candidate, Donald Trump, talking about some friend's junk size, that it was so impressive. Do you think that's really fair for the Christian people who follow Donald Trump? Really? To have your kids listening about, hot dog sizes at a political rally by the guy that wants to be the president of the United States. And that's the kind of guy that's your guy. That's the kind of guy that Jesus really wants. Fuck that shit. Before I forget. Okay, so let me find this picture. Just a second. I know I have it here. So, and I have it duplicated. So I have to be. I'm gonna find it. I don't have that many pictures here, so it'll be just a second. I was like, so, I don't know. I just felt so bad for all these people that follow this guy and somehow pretend that he's some sort of Christian, that he values Jesus, that he respects a woman or something. No, he doesn't. Okay, so I have two pictures here. So 1 and 2. Let me bring this one first. Look at this one. This is him when he's doing that rally, Trump 2024. And look at here, the family behind. Look at the girl. Look at the girl behind him with the family there. This is the exact moment he is talking about Arnold Palmer's junk. Look at that. And all these, retards, like all these magatards that defend Donald Trump and are always talking about, Biden, he was a pedophile, Biden this, Biden that. You have Donald Trump literally talking about dick sizes in front of little girls at a rally. Oh my God, you have to be a fucking sick person, not only to do this, but to support him. If he's sick to do it, I believe that the people enabling him and defending him and following and voting for him are twice as sick. The people defending him probably would have been great friends to Jeffrey Epstein. You have to be a special kind of stupid and sick to defend something like that. And now let me show you this other one. Look at this other picture here. This is the time. Remember the time when he was pretending that he was sucking, like sucking that thing, suck that thing. He wanted to suck that thing. And he was like pretending to do so with the microphone, like, whoa. Oh Lord, what a loser. What a loser. Who follows a loser like this? Who follows a sick bastard like this? Who is literally grooming children at his own rallies because he just can't control himself. He has to always be thinking of something sexual. Oh yeah, I want to have a threesome. I want to have a threesome with my own kids. Oh yeah, I was just joking. Why would you joke like that in front of in front of kids and families, Christian families with family values, the Family Values Party, brought to you by the Family Values Party. Oh my God. This is just 100% crazy. Guys, I have to go. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining. Please leave a like if you like the show. Leave a like. Subscribe to the show. Share. And I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Very likely tomorrow we'll be here so that we can keep exposing the absurd and the mental health, debacle that we find in all these people supporting Donald Trump and somehow trying to defend them. And then they have the balls to talk about Plantner and to talk about Biden or this and that. You guys don't care about shit. You don't care about the law. You don't care. Oh, I can, these illegals. I'm going to call to report illegals. I have a neighbor. He's an illegal. I'm going to call ICE. You don't care about the law. If you care about the law, you wouldn't have voted for Donald Trump. So please stop. Stop making a fool of yourself. Just say that you want to support a criminal. Hey, I don't care. I just like the guy. Fuck it. He's a criminal. Who cares? I don't care. I don't have any values. Just say that. That would be less irrational and less ridiculous than pretending that you're defending some sort of special God anointed person. Yeah. Nobody buys that shit. So take care. My name is Daniel Aranzamendi. This is the Aranzamendi podcast. Please go and support my Spanish channel. I also have my channel in Spanish is called just Aranzamendi Podcast Español. So if you like my content, please go and also support my Spanish channel. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to so that we can reach more people with this content. We need independent media now more than ever, especially in a time where Donald Trump is literally trying to silence the media, trying to silence comedians, trying to silence universities, trying to silence law firms. He's trying to silence everybody. Even now, ICE, FBI or ICE agents, Trump's, authorities are visiting people for posting on Instagram. We saw that recently. A lady posted something on Instagram about ICE. They went and knocked on her door. Another guy sent an email to, one of ICE's top officials just saying, like, you guys are going to regret this, you're gonna regret making all these decisions for the rest of your life. You're a monster. No actual threat. He was just telling them, you guys, for the rest of your lives, you have to live with all this abuse, all these violations of, rights and all of that. And they went to visit this guy too. So I guess freedom of speech is only for Trump and his followers. I guess pardons are only for January 6ers, insurrectionists and criminals and fraudsters. But just a regular citizen expressing his views, no freedom of speech. No respect. No freedom. We have an election in 4 months, guys. Vote blue. We need to rescue this country. This country is literally now, it has become a shithole. And we need to rescue it. So take care. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.